Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach. Last week, we talked about injuries that we had experienced with horses and how it affected us physically when we were riding. This week, I dive into the mental side of what those injuries did, both for coming back to riding and for the future that we had in the show pen on our horses. Ellie, do you want to let us know about how these injuries have affected you mentally?
Yeah, so like I talked about last week, I've had a pretty major back injury that still affects me mentally and physically to this day. And it's been 4 years now. So it's been quite a while. And the hardest part for me wasn't necessarily the injury itself. It was more the trauma of the injury itself, like going through actually getting hurt and going through the horse related accident. Like, I wouldn't say that I have a lot of anxiety or fear anymore that my back isn't going to be able to do what I want it to be able to do. Like, when I first got injured, I was more concerned about, okay, what if I can never ride again? What if I can never do the things that I want to do again? And now that time has passed and I've been able to ride, I've been able to exercise. Like, my injury does inhibit me a little bit, but I've learned how to manage it and I've learned how to be thankful for my injury because it's provided opportunities in my life that I would not have had if I hadn't been injured. So, in some ways, it sounds kind of funny. Like, I am kind of thankful for my injury in some ways, but it's been really challenging coming back from the trauma of getting hurt. I got injured on a horse that I really trusted, and it was a horse that was mine. So, Ed, that horse, was actually the first horse that I've ever owned. Before him, I had always leased. I felt really connected to him. So, I purchased him from a lady up in Canada, and I drove out to Canada to go and pick him up. And I took him home. And from there, I just felt so connected with him, and I felt such a strong bond with him, and I trusted him. Like, I started him, he was so easy to start. He was such an incredible horse, and I'm really thankful that I was able to go through that experience of buying a two-year-old, starting him. Like, that was a really cool experience to go through. But I feel like because I had such a strong connection with him, it made the trauma of getting hurt by him more severe because here was this horse that I really trusted, right? Like, I started him and he was perfect to start. And a lot of times you think, okay, like, if they're easy to start, then from here on out, it should kind of be smooth sailing, right? Like, obviously, they're horses and obviously things happen. But I had kind of had it in my head that, okay, if he didn't hurt me when I was starting him, then I should be able to trust him. I guess that was a little bit of a naive mindset to have because horses are horses and accidents happen. Here I was thinking that I was a little bit invincible and that this horse could never hurt me. And then he did. So, learning how to trust horses again has been kind of a journey for me. And I think part of the problem was, so I co-owned him with a trainer that I was with at the time. And when I got hurt and I couldn't ride or do anything for like 6 months, and he was still on rehab, and I knew that I couldn't finish out his rehab, and I didn't have a job, I couldn't pay for him, and my trainer and I decided that we were gonna sell him, and we were trying to figure out if I was gonna buy her out or if she was gonna buy me out or if we were just gonna outright sell him and all these things. And I ended up giving up my share to her and selling the rest of my ownership to her, and so I never got to ride him again, and I feel like that has been really challenging because I never got to overcome that fear, and so that fear has just stuck with me. When I got injured, that was the last time I ever rode that horse. And so that has been really hard because I never got to get back on. Like, you always hear when you get bucked off, you get right back on. There's a reason for that. To be able to overcome your fears and get back on that horse is so important for the healing process. And I never got to do that.
And for you, do you think it was that important for it to be that specific horse or just a horse in general?
Well, I think that it would have helped me a lot if I could have actually ridden him again. I think that it would have helped me. I think that if I had been able to ride him again and develop a partnership with him and learn how to trust him again, I think that that would have really helped with my healing process. I'll never know, but I'd like to think that that would have helped. I don't actually know. I think it would because like, 2 I think it was 2 years ago now, I got bucked off another horse, and I got hurt, but not nearly as severe. I hit the ground, and I thought I broke my sternum or a rib when it happened, but I didn't. I just ended up going home and kinda sleeping it off, and then I was fine. And then I still ride that horse to this day. And when it happened, I did get back on. So even though I was hurt and I, like, thought I broke a rib or a sternum, I still got back on because I was like, "Okay, like, I've been through this before. I can't not get back on this horse." So I got back on and it was, like, kinda scary, but I got back on and it was fine. And then since then, I still ride him. And
Are you
that
still afraid when you ride him?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Not nearly as bad, but, I mean, I do lead changes on him. I've been able to push myself through that fear a little bit, and there's been other horses in my past since this injury that have kind of scared me, and I've let myself grow that fear internally, and then I find that when I let that fear keep growing and I don't get back on, then that fear just keeps following me. When I face my fears, it does a lot for me, and that is really hard to face your fears, right? To get on a horse that you know has already bucked you off before and know that they could do it again. That part is hard for me too, like, just knowing the fact of, like, "Alright, he's already bucked you off once, like, what's gonna stop it from happening again?" Like, learning
Mhm.
how to work through that has been kind of challenging, but I know that I have to do it if I wanna keep doing this hobby. Like, I can't be fearful and ride at the top of my game, and I've kinda learned that the more fear that I have, the more likely that I am to get myself into trouble. Like, I find that if I'm fearful, then that just translates into the horse, versus if I'm confident, then that translates into the horse.
Absolutely. That's probably the biggest thing, right? And that is something that's kind of a tricky subject to navigate, right? Because you are going to have that fear working with that horse, but you do need to overcome it. And if you allow that fear to take over, you're going to unintentionally cause that horse to have anxiety as well. Were there any things that you kind of did to minimize your anxiety when you got back on the horse? Did you do any breathing? Did you do any fake it till you make it? How did you kind of cowgirl up, for lack of a better term, and get on and do it? What was your thought process?
I tried really hard to just ignore it and kind of stuff it down, and I think that works sometimes, but then not in others. I found that when I was fearful in situations that fear was not necessarily warranted, when I tried to stuff it down, that made it better. So, like, I've talked with my trainer about this, oh my gosh, probably every week for, like, the past 4 years. Like, she's been instrumental in helping me through all of this because 'cause she's been hurt before too. And I asked her, I'm like, "How did you come back from it? How did you learn to trust that horse again and know that that horse wasn't gonna hurt you?" And she was like, "You have to know when your body is being scared because it wants to be scared versus when your body is being scared because you're actually in a dangerous situation." And she's like, "I've learned how to find that line of where if I'm not actually in a dangerous situation and my body is just reacting because of a traumatic experience, then I have to learn how to shut that off." And trying to find that line has been helpful for me. There's lots of times where I find that I'm riding and I start to get nervous. Maybe there's a horse that's lunging and being kind of stupid on the lunge line in the arena while I'm riding, or maybe it's windy or maybe it's hailing, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just learning how to say, "Okay, like, the horse is broke. I'm fearful because of external factors, not because of what the horse is telling me." So, learning how to read horses a little bit better and get to understand how they work a little bit better has been helpful. And learning how if the horse is not fearful, then why should I start to become fearful? So, that has actually been kinda helpful. Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopindowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
Yeah, I think all of those are key points. And it's nice too that you had your trainer to kind of rely on in these situations because she could probably give you some external confidence and give you tools to be able to work through so that way you didn't feel like you were just 100% on your own through this scary time.
I'm really lucky that I have a trainer that doesn't just tell me to just suck it up. Because there's some trainers that probably would just say, "You know what? Like, you just need to get over it." And I just know that that wouldn't really work for me. Like, I can be a little bit sensitive. So I'm lucky that I have a trainer that's willing to work with me through those fears.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes all the difference in the world, right?
Yeah.
That's so great that you have her.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. And then another thing that helps is, like with all horse people, everybody's got a bit of an ego, right? So if there's a lot of other people around me and I know that I'm starting to get scared, I like don't want people to know that I'm getting scared. So I'll be like, nope, like you're just gonna stuff it down and you're just gonna pretend you're not scared. So that helps sometimes too. They just gotta put your brave face on. And there's days where when I'm going out to the barn and maybe I know that I might be riding a horse that we might be doing lead changes or it's hailing and it's windy and I'll start to get a little bit nervous in my drive over. And I just have to tell myself, you know what? Like, you just need to put your brave pants on and you just need to go out and you just need to ride. In the past, when I first came back from my injury, I would start to say, like, no, like, I can't ride. Like, I can't push myself through this. Like, it's hailing out or it's windy out. You know what I mean? Like, I would kinda let my fears dictate when I would and wouldn't ride. I'd be like, "Oh, like,
Yeah.
let's just do showmanship today," or, "I'll just give the horse a bath today." You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
won't ride. And every time that I let myself make that decision, it would get worse. The more that I let my fear manifest, the worse that it gets. So, I've had to learn of, okay, you have to face your fears. You can't just let them sit and grow and grow and grow inside of you.
Absolutely. And when you overcome a fearful ride on your drive home, do you kind of sit and think about the things that either scared you or the ways that you overcame it? Or do you just kind of block it out and move forward? What's your kind of debunking on that?
I replay it over and over and over again, probably a little bit too much. I live an hour and 15 minutes away from the barn, so I have a lot of time to and from the barn to sit with my thoughts, which can be good and bad. Sometimes I feel like I do a little bit too much of the pre-ride visualization where I think a little bit too much of the things that can go wrong. So I'm learning how to shift that focus and focus more on the things of like, okay, like if this happens, then I'm going to do this. If this happens, then I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Being more proactive.
yes, and trying to give myself more tools for when things do go wrong, then I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. So subconsciously, you can start going into action rather than freezing, right?
Oh, yeah, because that's what I wanna do. When I get nervous or when I get scared, I want to freeze and I just want everything to stop. It's like I wanna curl into the fetal position and just make it all stop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's what I want to do, and I can't do that. That's I know that that's how I'm gonna get hurt
For
again,
sure.
is if I'm on a horse and something scary happens and I'm not proactive about it, if I just kinda crawl into the fetal position and just kind of hope that the horse stops, I'm gonna get hurt again, you know? Like, that's
Absolutely.
so, learning how to keep moving my body even though I'm scared is really key for me. The second I stop moving, then I'm not in a good place.
Yeah, well, and studies have shown too that if you are moving, your mind is going to be moving. And so when you freeze up, it will paralyze your brain as well. And so it's good just to keep yourself active and going and having to have to keep those thoughts kind of flowing through so that way you can be prepared to handle whatever kind of comes up.
Yep. So, what about you? Have you had any injury or any trauma with a horse that you've kinda had to come back from?
Yeah. So we talked about last week that I had broken my tailbone. And I wouldn't say that that necessarily impacted me negatively. I did not have any fears surrounding that injury because it was 100% my fault. The horse was not being bad. It wasn't quote unquote scary. It was just an accident from not paying attention, right?
Yep.
So for me, I didn't have any fear to overcome for that injury. But what I did have to overcome was the pain, like we talked about, and just being mentally tough and being able to say, okay, this is my last year of youth. These are the goals that my trainer and I have set forth. My parents have put a lot into this. And nobody put this pressure on me. Nobody sat down and said, Lauren, you have to do these things, right? So I want to make sure that that's clear. It's not like anybody else put these expectations or demands on me, but in my mind, I thought I had to show up for them as much as I had to show up for myself, right? And that can be negative in some ways, but in that instant, it was really positive because it pushed me through. It made me say, "Okay, you can do this. Just make it happen." I remember there was one time when we were doing that sitting trot with no irons drill, and I remember thinking to myself, "I cannot go anymore." But my trainer was like, "You're doing so great. I'm proud of you. You can do it." I was like, "All right, we just gotta keep going," and we overcame it, and it did end up paying off, but it did take a lot of mental toughness to push through all that, to be able to prep the horse, show it the world, and then after the world show, I did take a little bit of a break from riding just because physically it just hurt so bad, but to be able to push through for those few months over the summer to get to where I wanted to, that was a mental toughness that I was really proud of myself for being able to accomplish, and then I've taken that experience and then pushed it forward through other circumstances that I come through in life because I figured if I could survive that, then if I get any little aches or pains, it's nothing, right? But one injury that I had, it wasn't necessarily a bad injury, but it did affect me mentally was I was practicing showmanship with a young horse that we had bred, and he was a little bit of a playful guy, and so I was practicing trotting some serpentines, and he was on the outside of me, so he was arcing around me, and he just kinda, like, jumped in the air to play, and when he brought his foot down, it just stomped the whole outside of my ankle.
It's like my worst fear in showmanship.
Yes, and so now I have a fear of
Ugh.
that every time I trot around, and I I will say sometimes I maybe keep my horse a little bit too far away from me in that. Can you really tell looking at it? No, but it might look a little bit better if I kept my horse a little tighter to me. But that is something that now that, um oh, what's that word? What's the word for perception or whatever? What do you call it when depth it's not depth perception, but where you can feel it?
Proprioception. I have something to say. So you said that, you probably can't tell. How you play it off is probably a huge factor of that, right? Like, if you're trotting around that corner and you're kinda, like, side-eyeing your horse and your smile kinda goes away and you're kinda leaking with your left shoulder to the left, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell
Yeah,
from body position and your body language if you're fearful of or not. So, that's something that we can talk about is how do you kind of fake it in the show pen, right? Like,
absolutely.
how do you not say to the judge, "I am terrified and I'm about to shit my pants, but I'm here and I've got a smile on my face." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Well, I think part of it comes down to, like you said, smiling and your presence, right? And that's something that I practice all the time. I know that in past episodes, we've kind of joked about the fact that I'll smile during my workout. And you're like, I can't even tell if it's hard. Well, it's because that's what I take into the show pen is if I practice looking pleasant and happy when I'm doing hard things, when I go out there, it's second nature for me to be pleasant, happy, confident looking, right? So, in a lot of aspects of my life that are easy or especially ones that are hard, like a workout, I am always going to try to put forth a pleasant attitude and a happy face because when I go out there in the show pen and my fears take over, or if I'm in pain, I just want that confidence to be subconscious so that way I don't have to think about it. I don't have to quote unquote fake it because it just takes over. When things get tough, that's how I present myself. If that makes any sense at all, but that's kind of how I rationalize it in my head of so when I am trotting around, even though subconsciously I'm thinking, please don't stop my ankle, like, please don't stop my ankle, I can still have that presence to me that says, this is my horse, I'm showing off, we're running fast, we're doing cool things, check it out, right?
Yeah, I actually kinda struggle with the same thing. So, we have this horse in the barn who I work with a decent amount in the showmanship, and he can get a little straight in his body, and he's big. He's a big horse, and he sometimes he doesn't know exactly where his feet are all the time, so I get really nervous every time I go around the corner. I'm like, "Dear God, like, please, 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 please do not step on my leg. Do not crush my leg." And so, I have found that for me I have to cue him a little bit differently. Like, I have to make sure that when I'm going around the corner that my right arm is a little bit further forward than my left arm to keep him in front of me. Because if I let him fall back behind me, then he's much more likely to be able to push his shoulders into me and get his leg onto my leg. So, I make sure for me that I slow down my body a little bit, but he knows that when I slow down, he's supposed to still keep going around that corner at full speed. Like,
For
I've
sure.
taught him and I've developed that partnership with him that, okay, like, even though I'm slowing down, you still need to be out in front of me. And that has helped a lot. And then because, like I said, he gets really straight in his body, right? Like, if we're doing a really tight turn, you can picture that if he's really straight in his body, he's not going to be able to get his shoulders out of the way. So, teaching him that when we go around this corner, you can't push your shoulders into me, that has also been really helpful. So, I think that another piece to that is learning how to have those little communication pieces with your horse of, "Hey, like, when I do this, you need to do this." You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Goes back to the tools in the toolbox, right? Whether
Mhm.
you're riding, whether you're on the ground, the more tools you have in your toolbox to overcome something, the more confident that you're going to be. Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pin anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and I'm here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
Have there been moments that you've had, like, in the show pen or when you're riding where something happens and you're kind of fearful and you just have to push through it? How do you do that?
I tell myself nobody's coming to save you. And that it's just me and my horse, so we gotta figure it out. I can ask for help if I'm in a position to, but let's say we're in the show pen and you come to a difficult part, I say, "This is all on you." So dig down, use those tools. But that's where I am very fortunate in that being a little bit older, you have so many more tools in your toolbox, right? So the more experiences that you can have and the more experiences that you can overcome, the bigger your toolbox becomes. And so the less and less things that you become afraid of because you have experience of overcoming and handling things, right? I definitely, when I was younger, had way more fear and anxiety than I do now. So there is something to look forward to about getting older is you're going to get a little more confident.
So let's talk about how, like, a couple months ago, I kind of came to you and I was like, hey, like, I'm really struggling with this fear. And when I ride, like, I just find that I'm getting nervous. And can you give me some tools to help me through that? Can you kind of tell me about that and the things that you told me that I needed to do because they actually were really helpful?
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm really, really happy to hear that that helped. So I think a part of it was on your pre-ride, right? Was when you're driving to the barn, I want you to think about the things that you might encounter and how you'd be able to work around them. So let's say you know it's going to be hailing. Well, what tools would you need to set yourself up for success once you get on your horse? Or let's say that you know that somebody else is going to be lunging. Again, what tools can you use to set yourself up for success? Imagine it in your head how a ride could potentially go. And if it goes wrong in your head, how would you have fixed it? If you don't know the answer to that, asking your trainer before you get on, hey, if this were to happen, what could I do? That's going to help you again build that toolbox. Another thing that we talked about was our breathing exercises, right? Where we talked about box breathing and being able to calm your nervous system. Breathe in for 3, hold for 3, out for 3, hold for 3. And just kind of do that to slow down and center your mind, center your body. And those breaths should also be kind of down through your diaphragm and not high up in your chest. Because if they're high up in your chest, that's going to enhance the anxiety feeling that you're experiencing.
The thing that I remember you telling me the most, and the thing that stuck with me the most was and I remember you told me, you're like, "Look, like, I don't know if this is the best advice, but this is what I do. You think I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna live."
Yeah. Oh,
And
okay. Sure.
while that piece of advice sounds a little morbid, it actually really helps. Like, when I get kind of in a scary situation with a horse, I just like, I have to, like, take a moment to take a breath, and I say, "Okay, look, like, either you're gonna be fine or you're not. Like, do what you can to be fine, and hopefully you will be fine." But, honestly, that piece has helped me the most. It's almost like a little bit of a calming feeling of, like, it's a X is gonna happen or Y is gonna happen. Like, those are the only options. You know what I mean?
Right. It's almost
And
out of your hands.
right, it just centers me down, and it lets me think, "Okay, either I'm gonna be fine or I'm not, and I can deal with it either way."
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. I'm really glad that that was applicable because kind of along the same vein of me telling myself nobody's coming to save you. It's the
Yeah,
same kind
same
of
idea.
thing. It's a little bit dark like you said, but you kind of just got to be there for yourself and figure it out.
Right, like, it almost keeps myself from, like, going down the rabbit hole mentally of, like, "Okay, well, this could happen, or this could happen, or that could happen." And it's like, "Nope, like, X or Y, A or B.
Yeah.
One's gonna
Yep.
happen or the other is gonna happen."
Yep, exactly. And you taking action is going to prevent the negative from happening, right? Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends. I remember back when I was in college and we went and rode on the collegiate equestrian team. And so for that, you go to different colleges and you get 4 minutes to warm up a horse, and then you have to go and show it. Talk about having to have complete control of your nerves and not getting anxiety, right? Because you're watching these
Yeah,
horses.
no kidding.
Yeah, so you watch them warm up and you see one be a little naughty or you see one be a little sully and you get to thinking like, "Oh man, I wonder what could happen when X, Y, or Z happens." Well, I remember getting this one reiner, and they said that every time it stopped, it would rear at the end, and you just needed to go with it, and that they would not call it out because it does it for everyone and it's quote unquote not unsafe. And I mean, it wasn't like a big rear, right? It just kind of it was the most interesting thing I've ever felt. But that was a scary thing to think about, right? Was that, oh my gosh, this horse that I have, it's going to rear. And even though it's not necessarily unsafe, it still your mind goes to thinking, well, what if this is the time that it is, right? And I
Right,
remember having to tell myself, like, hey, your team needs you. We're going to trust that the people who have ridden this horse and know this horse. But I remember running down there, and yeah, that thing would kind of pop up a little at the end, but then it would keep going. And so I just had to mentally say, you can do this, but also tell myself, do not push it too hard, right? Because you don't need to go there to be able to be successful. So there was definitely a lot of not only just trusting yourself, trusting those around you, but also saying, do I really need to go for a +1 when a 0 is adequate? So I just definitely worked around the areas that I knew would be an issue. And we survived it and we lived to tell another day. But I do remember that and thinking, okay, I have to get complete control of myself and not let this get in the way, because if I let my fears take over, I'm going to not only put myself in a situation, but let my team down. And so being able to kind of just pick up and move through it, that was huge.
what's the biggest piece of advice that you have for somebody where either they're fearful for whatever reason, either because they've had an injury or because they've been told that the horse they're about to ride is going to rear or whatever else? What's your biggest piece of advice for helping somebody work through that in that moment?
So let's say you've had a traumatic experience and you're just getting back into riding. You have a little bit of a fear and you don't know kind of how to overcome it. So, yeah, your visualization is going to help a ton of just being able to kind of go through things, make sure you have all the tools in your toolbox of how you would handle a situation. But a bigger thing is if you have an opportunity to choose what horse you're going to ride, pick the safest one, pick the most reliable one, right? Like, give yourself an opportunity to be confident because there's so many horses in this world. Find one that's going to build your confidence for you. Don't say, "Oh, I'm afraid of things, so I'm going to pick a level 8 spicy horse because I need to overcome it." Maybe go with a level 1 spice for a few weeks until you feel, "Okay, I can work through this and I can do that." But let's say your only horse is the level 8 spicy horse. Make sure you have friends, family, trainer, somebody there to support you through this because anxiety is best overcome by proving to yourself that you can do something, right? And kind of just overcoming these situations. But work on your breathing, work on your visualization. Knowledge is power. So learn as much as you can about the horse's situation, all those things, because you just never know what might come up. But that's what I would do if you're trying to overcome a traumatic experience. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.